Hmm. Hey everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Oh, welcome to Sunday night with me. Hmm. So happy to see you all here. It's been a minute since we've seen each other. I'm telling you, life is full of adventure, full of adventure. My personal curriculum has been very exciting the past, I don't know, 3 years, I think, but I am happy to be here with you. I am on the tail end of COVID. I thought I was immune, but I wasn't. So I'm on day 9, actually feeling quite much better. Any worse than I probably couldn't be with you, but I look good, right? So I cleaned up for you. And back on track. I'm just so happy to be here, streaming to you live from Southwest Florida. Been back in the country since September 19th to just a whirlwind of activity, hurricanes and COVID, and it's crazy out here for me. Is it crazy out there for you as well? So I think it's a really, really good time to talk about radical, life-changing gratitude. For those of you who are new to me, my name is Reverend Denise Schubert. I am an ordained New Thought minister. I am a purveyor of possibilities. I am a person who is committed to living life on the fringes of extraordinary and doing whatever it takes to do that. I really am. And life has thrown me a very large curriculum this year, as I'm sure it has for all of us, right? With COVID and whatever else has been going on. I recently posted, in fact, I posted today that for those of you who don't know, I am a lover of South Africa and have been there many times, including once with a National Geographic, which was at that time called Safari Life, and have met many of wonderful characters there. One of them was a lion named Darkmane, who I just found out this week died, and filled me with sadness. But then today it shifted into radical life-changing gratitude for the opportunity to share a minute of walking with him in his lifetime. Now I know he's just a lion and I'm just a human, but really part of awe-inducing, part of changing cleverness for bewilderment is to really, really appreciate the moments that are uniquely special to us in our life. So if you're here with me, before I continue on, please say hello. Before I dive into tonight's lesson, we have a lesson on shifting into gratitude as an extraordinary experience rather than an everyday experience. It's a moment of shifting into grace, which is like gratitude on steroids. So I want to talk about grace. I've had much of it the past year or 2 or 3. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to say hello. I know it's hard to come out in public, but it matters to me. You matter to me. And so thank you for saying hey. So the lesson really tonight is on radical gratitude and what that means really, because, hi, Brian. So by the way, all Thanksgiving and gratitude is good. All of it, whether it's ordinary or extraordinary, whether it's of this world or another world. It's like when your grandpa gives you $5, for you to be thankful is a really good thing. And if you're grateful for surviving COVID yourself, or you're grateful for that the pandemic is almost over, whatever it is, Thanksgiving is in direct alignment with the laws of the universe. So the laws of the universe say when you are thankful and grateful, everything works together more succinctly for your greater good. So there really, in many ways, is no less or more when it comes to thankfulness and gratitude. So please do not hear me tonight saying, anything other than that, because it is the truth. The truth is, being thankful will lead you to a life of pleasure and thanksgiving always. It's, there's this wonderful Rumi or Hafez, I can't remember which one, who said something to the effect of the earth never says to the sun, thank you, and the sun never requires gratitude. That when you're in alignment, the greater good is always happening, which is really, really what I'm referring to as grace. So I think to move into tonight, and by the way, I'm really quite grateful to be here with you, and quite grateful for all of the experiences we've experienced together. Many of you, a couple of you, well, all of you really are special. So there's this wonderful book by Joel Goldsmith called Living Between Two Worlds. And this book draws a distinction between living in the world of the ego and living in the world of the spirit. Or I would really say, like living in the world that universe number one, or universe world number one, is living in a world that is visible and not invisible. There we go. It's the one we experience with our physical senses. You smell it, you see it, you taste it, you hear it, so it feels really, really real. It is an ordinary world where there are ups and downs, ins and outs, winners and losers. It's an ordinary world, and not real world. It's really quite real. All of us know that. It's driven primarily by what's happened in the past. The past defines what can happen in the future. It's a karmically induced world, meaning we live by the law of cause and effect. What you do is done unto you. What you are to the world will be to you. To live in this world requires us to be careful and cunning. It requires us to be on our toes. We feel primarily that our success and our happiness in life comes from our own effort. Like we strive to be good people. We strive to do the right thing. We strive to earn money. We strive to make friends. But there is a lot of efforting in the world in universe number one. And universe number one is a world crafted by, run by, organized by, and which we live in by our ego self, or our identity as a human being living a human experience in a world that is somehow a conundrum. It's not bad, it's just what it is. So Joel Goldsmith talked about universe living between two worlds, and there is that world, and we're born into it. So we're never going to, as long as you're in this body, you're not going to escape the world of accumulation and materialism and who wins. Just turn on the news, really watch the TV. I'm not making anything up here. There's a lot of effort to be a happy, whole, satisfied human being in that world. And Thanksgiving in that world is kind of a hallmark of that world is also living from the outside in. So normally our Thanksgiving and gratitude happens in response to, I got a job promotion, I'm thankful. I didn't die today, I'm grateful. I caught COVID, but I recovered, that's great. So it's very normal. But in my work, a life of spiritual power is lived from the inside out. So this second universe, which is as real as the first one, though the first one is based on what is seen, the second universe is based on what is not seen. So the second universe is based on a more intuitive, more connected way of being. In that universe, there is really nothing to lose, nothing to hide, and nothing to fear. So there's less holding, less stress, less tension, less making things happen, less striving. So in that universe that is more governed by the spirit than by the ego, we are wanting to discover that within ourselves and to let it express through us. That both of these worlds do exist, but something in us needs to be aware of the alternative and to actually seek it. You must be a being who looks for and can actually see the second world. Now, gratitude in the second world is a far different experience than thanks than purely just thanksgiving or gratitude in the world of effects or forms. Not better, it's just different. So we should look at this thing, we should look at this nuance because it's life changing. My most recent experience personally was really after my stroke last year, where I survived. Now, it's very, very hard to put these experiences into words, but where I realized that I was going to survive, that I wasn't going to die, I wasn't going to become dependent, I wasn't going into a nursing home, I was going to be able to see again and drive again and cook again. And my inner experience was one of bewilderment, of something so deep and so profoundly life-changing that I've never been the same since, and probably never will be the same since. And even when Darkmane died, when I learned of his death yesterday, I was very, very sad. And I actually get a little bit sad about death, and not because I believe in death, because I believe that energy, we really ever die. But there's something about here, not here for me that's very sad. Like, to experience this lion's face and to be in his presence so many times, and to have him die the way he died, which was to be trampled by buffalo. But the truth is, he was a 9-year-old lion, and that's about average life for a lion in the wild. But more gratitude for that he and I shared so many different experiences over the years. I've been in the presence of this lion so many times, and I'm so grateful. Like, what would my life be without the presence of this lion? Well, what would your life be without the things that your grandchildren, the moment of your awakening, your liberation, your becoming more than who you ever thought you could be, that invokes in us life-changing experiences that make the sad things. Well, we'll talk about that in a moment. So you and I, we come together to practice gratitude and to seek our relationship with the infinite, so we can make that moment of grace, that little good witch of the north, ding, ding, to make that moment possible. Because if you're not open, if you're not seeking out the kingdom of heaven on earth, if you're not seeking out that spiritual universe, then we can get caught in that nothing's good. We can get caught in the past, like, my life has been this way, it's always going to be this way, I'm never going to be really happy. Who could be happy with my circumstances? We strive to move beyond that. We do. We strive to awaken, to identify more with the spiritual, unseen side of life than with the ego-seen side of life. That is our work. And it's our work every day. It's not like you arrive. It's not like I've arrived and there's never ever going to be another bad experience or another sad minute. Never. It doesn't mean that. But it means that I'm aware that there's more. I am more. There's more in this moment than what I'm experiencing in this moment. It's this Rumi quote: change cleverness, which is required to live in kingdom number 1, to bewilderment, which is a natural part of living in kingdom number 2. So I believe this moment of grace isn't actually something we can make happen. It's actually something that just happens. it comes to us. There's this beautiful, I'll share with you, there's this beautiful quote. Um, I'm trying to work here with, oh, see, here we go. There's this wonderful quote by Anne Lamott that says, I do not understand at all. I do not at all understand the mystery of grace, only that it meets us where we are, but doesn't leave us where it found us. I love that. It meets us where we are, but doesn't leave us where it's found us. That's really the moment I was talking about in the hospital. I was getting ready to go in for an angiogram. I just had a stroke. I lost really, I just had my hip replaced. It felt like it was over, and Grace swooped in, met me right there in my despair, right there in my hopelessness, right there in my devastation. But it didn't leave me there. It lifted me. Now, that happened to me really through music more than anything, through a little Josh Groban, a little the tenors, a little bit of Celine Dion. But it was life-changing. And it changed my attitude. It changed what I was willing to expect or accept from life in that moment. So one of my favorite movies is Batman Begins. And let me tell you why. I'm going to tell you why I love this movie so much. And those of you who have been around me for a long time, I've told this story before because it's, I think, a brilliant metaphysical, metaphorical story, which is that in Batman Begins, Batman was a little boy. And when he was a little boy, like I don't know how old he was, 7 or 8 or 9 maybe, his parents were murdered in front of him. And he also had this experience of falling into a well. So he falls into this well, and not only is he in a well and he's scared, but there are bats like swarming all over his face. And when he grows up, when he's not a little boy anymore, and he finds his way into the world, and finding his way was not easy because he was bereft. He was devastated. He was ruined by his past, his dead parents, the well. He had developmentally, he never developed. He was depressed. He was alcoholic. He was depressed. He was in a foreign prison. He was just a hot mess. Now, am I the only one who can relate to what that feels like to be a hot mess in life? And as the story progresses, Batman finds his calling in life. He finds his purpose. He goes about the business of living on the fringe of his own greatness. And he didn't become Butterfly Man or Dolphin Man. He became the thing that caused him so much discomfort, so much trauma, became the thing that caused him so much happiness and so much fulfillment. So bats might have ruined his life in kingdom number 1, but it saved his life in kingdom number 2. Living between two worlds. So your past, what has happened to you, rather than just being a source of disempowerment, can also be a source of incredible empowerment. But when that happens, it's grace. When that happens, it's the kiss of the divine on your life. Are you feeling me? Are you getting me here? So for me, this is radical gratitude. This is radical gratitude when we can take the things that we think have destroyed us and really see that they have saved us, that they can save us, that they can be the source of much, much, much fulfillment. There's another quote by Rumi that says, "You are so weak, give up to grace. The ocean takes care of each wave until it gets to shore." So there's something beautiful in here, which simply just says, give up to grace, give up to your oneness and your unity with all that is. Give up to the idea that you are mortal and puny and small and weak. Give up to the idea that you are a victim and begin to open to the bewilderment of life, the bewilderment that is the very essence of who you are and what we're about. So I'm hoping that everyone who's listening to this podcast has some experience of what it means to move beyond the circumstances, like what it means to actually transcend the circumstances. I'm hoping that that's happened for you. And if it hasn't happened for you, I invite you to be aware that the possibility exists for it to happen to you, to actually have an expectation that something magnificent, something unfathomable, some great good can take place for you today and tomorrow, that you are not stuck where you are. And by the way, I'm not saying in any way, I mean, you're talking to a person who's been really, really sick for a week, that I've just been really, really grieving the loss of these beings in my life. So, and there was a moment yesterday, had you been talking to me, you would say, how can this person be saying what she's saying today? Because somehow when you're open to living between two worlds, living between both worlds, something gets to work with you that can't work with you if you're closed or shut off or not open. So just be willing, as my teacher Michael Beckwith used to say, be willing to be willing to be willing. Be willing to see a new idea. Be willing to think a new thought. Be willing to have something wonderful happen. So grace does three things, which is the reason why I invite you to open to it. Which, by the way, it could just feel like gratitude on steroids right now. It doesn't have to feel like grace, right? But that kind of gratitude does two things. One is it turns chaos, a little space in there, but it turns chaos into order. So where life has felt chaotic or out of control, which it can, by the way, you just have to really watch the news to feel out of control. In grace, as how would I define grace here? Let's define grace as the descent of God, the descent of spirit, the descent of spirit into normal life, the descent of spirit into ego life, like the awareness that we are birthless, deathless beings, the awareness that there's more to us than our bodies, the awareness that energy cannot die, we can no more die than God can die, this awareness that great love can prevail. And when that happens, it creates a calm in the midst of the storm. So grace turns chaos into order always. Like you've got this, you've got this. Grace also turns suffering into wisdom. You know, suffering is, I think I can't remember where I heard this the first time, where pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And suffering is the lingering of pain over an extended period of time. So, and mental and emotional pain leads to suffering way more than physical pain. You know, if you cut your finger or have your hip replaced, ultimately the pain ends. And unless you really want to hang on to that for a long time, it ends, it passes. You forget about the cut finger. Emotional pain, like a divorce or the death of a loved one, or the death of a dark mane, the lion, can last. It can last a lifetime. Actually, I've coached people, counseled with people who have been suffering something that happened 50 years ago that never got past the pain, never got past. So that leads to suffering, to illness, to disease, to addiction, to depression. Grace turns that into wisdom and into empowerment, into inspiration. So that just like in Batman, it turns what was perceived as the disempowerment of your life into the empowerment or the inspiration of your life. Grace can do that and does do that for many, many people. Do you remember the story? I'm not going to remember, some of you will remember the story of the father who lost his son in a gang drive-by killing. I don't know when this was, a long time ago, I think, anyway. And what this father did is he insisted on meeting, in his grief and his devastation, he insisted on meeting the gang member who killed his son. And over time, Grace did the holy work of restoration. And the two of them became connected in the fight against gang war and violence. And that's what grace does. Grace turns chaos into order and turns suffering into wisdom. And finally, grace softens the experience of loss. And this is kind of a new one that I've just come into the awareness of today. It just kind of, I watched Wild Earth TV does something called Ask AMA, Ask Any Question, AMA. Wow, I'm blanking on this, but it's a thing where they let you ask questions about what's happened in the wild. And they did this with Darkmane yesterday. They, like, what do you want to know about how he died and who this lion was and how do we facilitate our grieving process? And it was really beautiful because they talked about how this 9-year-old lion did lion perfectly. He was a perfect lion. He hunted, he raised tens and 20s and 30s of young lions. So he brought in the next generation of lions. He did what lions do, which is to raise their young and protect their territory and to hunt. And he lived like a lion and he died like a lion. And it was just made me feel better. It mitigated my experience of the loss, the selfish, almost personal loss of this being on the planet, to really appreciate him. And we can do that with our own people. You can do that with your parents who you've lost, or a loved one you've lost, or the loss of a famous person. I remember I was in Kenya when I was in a shopping mall when some wonderful Indian man came up to me and said, "Did you just hear that George Michael died?" And he was so sad and bereft. And we spoke and we talked, and I don't know, grace touched us and the loss was mitigated by something deeper. So that's our lesson today. Our lesson is to really be willing to let grace touch you in the areas of your life where you need grace. And to remember this one, that grace will meet you where you are, but won't leave you where it found you. And we all need that, because as we move through this living between two worlds, this first world, until we awaken to a new possibility, until we awaken to a new identity for ourselves, it can just be plain old, messy, friggin' hard work with a lot of sorrow and a lot of struggle. And grace lifts us out of that into some kind of something else. So I've been there. I've been touched so many times. I look forward to being touched again and again for whatever time I have left. And I hope the same for you. And that is our lesson for today. So namaste. So I'm gonna pray. I'm gonna speak a word of prayer for all of us. Hi, Jan. And let you know about a couple of things that are happening. In fact, maybe I'll let you know about a couple of things that are happening before I actually close us in prayer, so that we can end in prayer right where we were. So first of all, if you want to go to my website, that's deniseschubert.com. If you want to donate to my ministry, I'm now saving up money to go back to Africa next year. So you can do that from my website. And there's a donate button. You can also PayPal or Zelle to revdschubert@gmail.com, and all of your support is obviously greatly appreciated. as it supports my ministry. I am doing a workshop on the Enneagram. Let me see if I can show you here. This is on December 1st from 7 to 9 on Zoom. And if you don't know what the Enneagram is, it is a spiritual personality typing system that, in my view, is brilliant. I've been teaching this course and practicing the Enneagram for a good 10 years now for myself. This is being sponsored by Spiritual Frontier Fellowship, and you can go to their website. It's on your screen, spiritual-frontiers.com, and you can register or find it on Eventbrite. So that's coming up December 1st. Also, I'm going to start on Tuesday, December 6th. I'm going to start a 12-week series on a life of spiritual power, vision, commitment, and congruence. 12 weeks on really the 8 fundamental things of living a life of spiritual power. So that's going to be live on Facebook starting on Tuesday nights, December 6th at 6 p.m. So I think those are the only 2 things. I'll be back next Sunday with a new topic for Sunday nights. I'll keep doing those separate from A Life of Power, which will be Tuesday nights. So, all right. Well, thank you all for being here. I'd like to end us in prayer. Prayer for us is not begging and beseeching God for anything. A prayer for us is truly just to anchor ourselves in this second world, this second kingdom of consciousness. So just join me in that. Your job here is to receive. My job is to just speak the blessings. So turn within. Turning within simply means to close your outer eyes. That space and place and dimension within you is where we want to open our inner eyes. We want to gaze into this place that is a dwelling place of love, perfect peace, harmony, order, everything we could possibly want on the inside. It is the home. Our heart is the home of God, the home of spirit. So I know as I turn within and you turn within, that we're turning within to the same place, that it is in this place that we are connected to each other, to all animals, to all plants, to all trees, to the one infinite power and presence that I call God, and to know that it is the very essence and nature of your true identity. I also recognize that we live in a spiritually motivated and accentuated universe where our thoughts, our beliefs, our words, our intentions, our commitments are powerful. They actually pave the way to our future. And so it is in that awareness that I speak my word for you and for me, simply acknowledging our true identity, which is a spiritual, birthless, deathless, eternal being come to earth to experience, to love, to participate, to joyously embrace all that is. We were not made for pain. We are made for pleasure. We were not made for pain. We are made for enjoyment. We are not made for suffering. We are made for inspired action. And so I, in this moment, call forth grace into each and every life within the sound of my voice, to know that wherever you are not stuck. Wherever you are, you won't be there forever. That allow for, make welcome the experience of awe-inducing, life-changing, radical gratitude into your life, and watch what happens. I promise you, wherever it takes you will be better than today. And so I'm grateful. I'm grateful to always be in the awareness of my own divinity. And in the awareness of my own divinity, I'm in the awareness of your divinity. And so I bless that and honor that in each and every one of us. I exalt it. We simply accept it, allow it to be, and so it is. Amen, amen, ashe. All right, beloveds, thank you so much for being with me tonight. I love you. I'm so grateful for you. I look forward to seeing you next week. And as always, you can reach me at revdschubert@gmail.com. Peace and blessings to you. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening.